My name is Michael Price, and I will be your comedic presenter for the day. And don't worry, when we edit the video, I'll take out the word comedic. Very important topic that we're going to discuss today is penetrating the federal government with your products and services. Quick question. How many folks are trying to do business with the government or doing business with the government in any way, shape, or form? Nobody. Oh, I got one. Well, you don't count. You're a moderator. We like to have fun when we do these types of things, so forgive the sickness. As we know, today's sponsor is Astrakhan, which has really turned out to be the Sangoma Digium show, now that they finally got merged together, which is an interesting story in and of itself. Sangoma is a client of mine, has been for a while, and Digium is also a client of mine, has been for a while, and because of the secrecy, I didn't even know what was going on. So we've already taken Digium into the government marketplace through a reseller, Veneto. Corey actually spoke yesterday, and I'm currently working with Sangoma to get their products and services into the government. So anybody that wants to discuss that, you can see Preston over in the booth, or Jim Webster, or one of those guys, and they'll tell you what's going on, and we'll move forward from there. I'm guessing you're a woman-owned business.
Woman-run business.
Are you married?
No.
You own it. Even if you're married, you own it. So, smart woman. Woman-owned business?
Employee of a woman-owned business.
That's good too. Any of the guys that are married, you don't own the business, your wife does. It's called the high cost of leaving. So, any veterans here? Native American? Anybody like that? I ask for these things because there are special dispensations for any of us that are trying to do business in the government marketplace. Is it profitable? Absolutely. And I'm going to throw some acronyms at you. Oh, by the way, for those of you, before I forget, and I will, marketus.com/Astrakhan18. You can download the slides at your convenience. Astrakhan18, one word. I tried something new. The QR codes were fine, but not everybody had a QR reader, and they had to run off and go somewhere else, and it didn't work that well. So decided to make them downloadable for you. Astrakhan18. All the acronyms I'm not going to bore you with. I'm just going to go through them very quickly. Anybody interested in doing business with the government? And that's hopefully why we're all here. I'm interested in doing business with the government, but they won't pay me. So they say they're broke. That's beside the point. System for Award Management is what's called SAM database. And it's the first place you have to go to be registered to do business with the government. We'll talk about these as we get to them. Oh, I'm going the wrong way. That's no wonder I feel like I'm going backwards. It's hitting the wrong button, IBM. SAM is a system for award management. The first step to do any business with any government agency is you must go to sam.gov. And if you see an orange link here on your slides, it's a live link. It'll take you wherever I'm telling you to go. It's free. There are scams out there that say, give us $500 and we'll maintain your SAM record for you. Don't do it. Do it yourself. In fact, if you have questions, call me. I'll put out cards for everybody to pick up if they want at the end. Call me and I'll tell you how to do it. I'll do a screen share with you to get it done. Do not pay these scam outfits to do this. We work too hard for our money. Whether we get paid or not, we work too hard for our money. Do not do it. Federal business opportunities. Has anybody tried to bid on government contracts at all? Didn't work out too well, did it? This is a complete webinar that we've done that discusses exactly how to manipulate FedBizOps. It's an excellent place for you to get contacts. Most of us here are either developers or techs or something, or managers or woman-run businesses. We need to disseminate this information to our people in order to generate additional revenue. If you've got a sales department at your disposal, or you are the sales department, this is very basic, crucial information so that you don't make a mistake and get shut out. Here's a sample of federal business opportunities just for voice over IP. I just did a generic. This is one of probably 150 pages. I just grabbed one. And if you look on the far right side, it's of 2017. I didn't want to get anybody too excited, but if you dig into this, you'll see the exact projected dollar amount that the government, this particular, who is this? Department of Army Procurement, Department of Veterans Affairs, Air Force, Interior, on and on and on. Hundreds of thousands of places for you to do two things. One, bid on a contract. Number two, collect the contact info for future. It's an excellent marketing trick. Anybody familiar with the Small Business Administration? Do you have a business plan? Anybody? If you don't, click on the business plan link. It will walk you through an 8-part series on how to put together what's called an investor grade business plan that's workable and usable. Anybody need money? What? No hands? Who hit the lottery? Tell the truth.
Everybody needs money.
We all need money. SBA has two programs. One is called the 7A program. The other one is called the 7J, as in Joe, program. When you click on the 7A loan program, it will show you all of the options. You can get, I think it was, I did it 1988. I did an SBA loan. It was 110%. $100, 100% for the loan and 10% for working capital. We all know about FEMA. If you look to the northwest right now, FEMA is in operation because of Hurricane Me, Michael. So they finally named one after me. Pricing analysis, we don't need to worry about that today. I'll be glad to explain that to anybody at any time. Teaming partners. All the folks sitting here right now could be potential teaming partners. Working together. You provide hardware, you provide software, you provide this, you provide that. If you all get together, go back to FedBizOps, get everybody together. You have the full solution that the government's looking for as a team. Legal and very profitable. How many here accept credit cards? Okay, like I said, 70% do not. Good high percentage. It's required to do business with the government. 70% do not accept credit cards. Here's another statistic that's even worse. Over 60% don't have a website. How can you operate in today's world without a website, without a web presence? Here's the first credit card if anybody's interested. I'll give $100 to the first person that can tell me what bank it's issued on. Anybody? Don't bother. There was never a bank. The original credit cards never had a bank. This is circa 1959 by IBM. That black strip is magnetic tape. The yellow is Scotch tape. That was the first credit card. It actually worked, but you had to have an IBM reader to read it. I have no idea what was on it, but I thought you might find that kind of comical. We can talk about the next steps. We can go through anything else that you want to go through, feel you need to go through, any questions you have. We have a mic, and if you're shy, just yell. It's important that we look at both the commercial and the government side of our industry. I've been doing these presentations at AstraCon and IT Expo since 2014. And the crowds are full, empty, all different sizes, but one thing holds true across everything. Everybody wants to either help somebody or get paid a lot of money. And I tell everyone, if you want to be successful, do what you're doing to help somebody and you will get your rewards. If you're doing it the other way around, you're going to end up broke. I'm guessing that most of you have been in business for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, maybe longer. I've been doing this 32 years. Yes, I'm old. 32 years negotiating contracts for the government, starting 1986 with a little guy named Michael Dell. And the rest is, as they say, history. So the bottom line is we did it for a reason, to try to help small business get through the red tape and the garbage in D.C. to try to generate revenue for their families. There's the contact info. Again, AstraCon 18 is the page for you can download your slides. Any questions? Well, I know we're done early, which is highly unusual. I told you I'd cut the thing down to nothing.
We have any questions?
So for services like voice and messaging, what type of, I think that there's been a psychological barrier for us because I'm unclear as to what kind of security protocols and requirements and certificates might need to be used. How would we go about finding those types of things out?
It makes perfect sense. And I just had that discussion at breakfast this morning with bandwidth.com. And that's been their reluctance to get into the government because they say, we can encrypt our end, but how do we encrypt the other end? I said, it's not your problem. The government has gone voice over IP almost everywhere, and they're still deploying. You've all heard of Veneto, Corey, who spoke yesterday. Corey's a client. I did their government contract. Their first order was supposed to be 200 phones. And I believe when we finally, because the requirement kept changing, and increasing, I believe the first order was 1,500 phones. They provisioned them with, as you know, you can put certificates on any voice over VoIP phone. Any IP phone can have a cert, which means the server has a cert, which means server to server can be encrypted. So unless you're going to NSA or CIA or those guys, and they're all on VoIP already, but they're still deploying more and more and more because Amazon is rebuilding AWS for the CIA to increase the security on their cloud. And I had the privilege, was it in Fort Lauderdale in 2016, the guy sat next to me, his badge said, Jeffrey, U.S. government. He said, do you mind if I sit here and join you? Well, we were sitting at a tent top. I said, sure, not at all. I said, so Jeff, do you work for Maryland procurement or Virginia procurement? He looked at me with that sheepish grin and said, Maryland? Maryland procurement's the NSA. Virginia procurement's the CIA. He was attending my briefing, sat on that side with his head against the wall, looked like he was sleeping. He was taking notes. He just wanted to find out what about encryption, about some other stuff. And they just send these. He was chief procurement officer for small business. If I'd have known that earlier, I would have had him come on in and talk to my people. Let's see what we can do. So the encryption aspect of it, it's there. And as we both know, unless you've got a packet sniffer sitting injected right on the line, you are not going to get any data, any information. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, please, because that could have changed 5 minutes ago and I wasn't briefed. That helped. So you're going to jump in now, right?
Oh, yeah. I'm already on the website.
Yeah.
Hi, Michael. Thank you. When it comes to state governments, now every state does things differently, but do the same kind of procedures and same kind of environment for getting listed and all that, do those tend to correlate across different states? Is everyone just completely different?
No and no. First of all, if you have and I speak from since 1987 when I made the decision to only focus on GSA contracts because they're the easiest, most lucrative, and as I'm about to show you, the most versatile of any of the contracts that are out there. We all hear about, these big telecom contracts that, Alliant and, CSC and SAIC and, Lucent and all these guys are killing each other. We can't compete in that arena. We don't want to. It's designed for big corporations that come back and look at subcontracting with small fish like us. However, if you already have a government contract, you're going to steal so much business from those big boys. So if you have a GSA contract, two things are going to happen. Number one, where are you located? It's automatic. You have a state contract. Who's from California? You have a state contract if you have a GSA contract. Anybody from Florida? Automatic. Virginia. These I know are automatic. If you have a federal government contract, you will automatically have a CMAS, California, TexMAS, VMAS, Florida Mass, multiple award schedule, automatic state contract if you're in the IT world. We're only in the IT world. So the answer to your question is, you don't have to go off and do all that bidding. When Michael Dell got his first contract in 1987, after I spent about 4.5 months negotiating it, got it signed for him, he was smart. He happened to live in the Texas Capitol. He went over to the state capitol and said, I got this GSA thing. What can I do with it? You now have a state contract. Have a nice day. That's how easy it is. All but guaranteed. Now, the rest of the states, not that familiar with. I've lived in Virginia and Florida. I've worked in California, Texas. I'm very familiar with how they work. Great question, and I missed that on the presentation because I wanted to see if you were paying attention. Greed is what I want to hear. Anybody else? We can't end early.
So you talk about like technical requirements. You're talking about like secure signaling. What other requirements do they ask for like VoIP contracts like that? Like
It's
lawful
not-
intercept or?
It's not a VoIP contract. What you're getting is, let's take Sangoma. They've got 500 line items, 600 line items, just equipment, software, hardware, IP phones. That gets offered to the government as it is with a pre-negotiated discount. What happens then is an agency, let's say Maryland Procurement, when we're on their subject, come in and say, we're thinking about replacing our phone system. We want to get rid of the old Avaya analog system. We want to go to VoIP. And here's what we need. We definitely need 2,000 users, and we need this, and we have the bandwidth already, which need you to plug in, plug and play. And as far as phones, what phones do we need? We have executives, we have analysts, we have this, and then you start breaking down the various types of phones that you suggest that they use. That gives them a budgetary number. Here's your total number of line items, here's your total of phones, software, implementation, maintenance, blah, 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 and it's going to cost you X. Depending upon when it is during the year, if it's in September, let's say it came out to $52,000 even, and the buyer says, that is actually pretty good, but unfortunately I only have 49 left in my budget. What do you do?
Wait till January.
No, it's the end of September. If she doesn't spend that 49,000, she loses it. No.
They've got to use the budget.
You use the budget, call it a day. 49,000, I did you a favor, because guess what? Come October 1st, she's going to find other business for you, or he or whoever it is. Because once all that equipment gets, delivered, installed, provisioned, and it's running great, the training's done, and everybody's absolutely happy, when they need something next time, you did the buyer a favor by helping her use her budget. It's use it or lose it September 30th. We hate to do it, but guess what? We had plenty of profit at 49. We had even more at 52. 49. We knew there was going to be some give and take. And if you understand that you're coming up against budget crunches at the end of a fiscal year, which is always September 30th, then you have to look at, I may have to play a little game. Good question. Anybody else?
Thank you. When it comes to how does the government view hosted versus premise when it comes to like PBX systems, for example? Are you seeing a trend or a pattern? Are they becoming more open to hosted solutions, or are they more stuck in, if its box isn't on my location, it doesn't exist?
They do both. There is quite a bit of hosted out there, and hence the Amazon cloud and some of the other cloud. They're using Azure, they're using Amazon, they have their own cloud. It's a mishmash of everything, which is, in our case, is good because we can be part of that mish or the mash. If they just said we're going strictly with XYZ company, we're all shut out. But the difference is that their bandwidth stinks. Their connection. If any of you have ever gone to any of the GSA or government sites, White House, anybody, USA.gov, pick one, it doesn't matter, they're slow. They're slow because they bought the cheapest bandwidth. I have no idea how fast it is. I've never run a speed test on it. But imagine what I'm trying to do when I'm taking one of your applications and trying to submit it to the government, and I sit there and I get and I'm thinking, okay, do I have enough time to go get a cup of coffee before it stops spinning? Yeah. And I come back. Oh, it's going the other way now. It's like a microwave. One way, then the other way. And admitted, I actually had a contracting officer admit to me that it's the cheapest bandwidth we can buy. So the good news is that's going into GSA headquarters. Because the government's so fragmented, they could have their own bandwidth anywhere, and it's not all centralized back into D.C. It's wherever it happens to be. For example, in Virginia, down near Fredericksburg, which is just above Quantico, for those of you not familiar with the area, they have a government work center. They just come in, sit down, little cubicles, and that's where they can work without having to drive all the way to D.C., which is stupid anyway. Why don't they just let them work from home? Some of them do. I've got a couple contract officers that say, if you need me, call me at home or call me on my cell. So the bandwidth is fragmented, so there is no real preference of hosted versus self-hosted, because where are they going to put the servers? Even though they could be virtual machines. My PBX is a VM. Runs beautifully. Highly recommended you don't run free PBX as a VM, but I've been doing it for 6 years now. 7 years. Never had a problem. So there is no preference, I don't believe. Now that could have changed 5 minutes ago and they didn't tell us. So I've learned one thing about the government, and I'm expanding it to government rather than GSA. The only thing inconsistent about the government, the only thing consistent about the government is inconsistency. Can I hear an amen? Any other questions? Hope that solved yours. Yes, dear. You're on Candid Camera
From
now?
some of us are small businesses, and
We all are. We all are.
and we are running on kind of tighter cash flow margins. What could we expect if we do win a great contract? When we send an invoice, what kind of payment terms could we expect?
You've been here before, haven't you?
No, this is my first Astrocon.
Really?
Yeah, I've only been in the industry for like 10 months, so I'm learning a lot.
It's a perfect question, and I usually discuss it the whole time. First of all, I have a GSA contract. Let's put that. Now, you want me to bid on your contract that you've put out, your Homeland Security. If I win, what do I get? If I win your bid, what do I get? Begins with a C. Contract. Wait a minute, I already have one. I have a GSA contract. Why am I bidding on your contract? Once you have, and I use GSA because that's what I've been doing for 32 years, you get a 5-year, no guarantee contract. Just like a fishing license. I got a fishing license, but the fish aren't jumping in my boat. Same exact analogy. Once you have a contract, you don't have to bid. The scenario I gave him on, the different budgetary, 52 versus 49, that's a budgetary quote. You're trying to fit their requirement in their budget so that you don't lose money. So once you have a contract, which is good for 5 years, plus 3 5-year extensions. Corey's getting ready to do his first extension. He's been almost 5 years now. He'll go another 5 years. Anything that they want that you've got listed, and we all know who Amazon is, we know who eBay is. GSA has what's called GSA Advantage. And that is that's their online shopping cart. So that only government agencies can shop on that site, but that's where your products, once you've got a contract, are listed. When they see it, click it, tell me how many, check out, it automatically bills their cost center, whatever it is. But let's go on the other side. You get an order, not a contract, you already have a contract, you're getting an order against your contract. $100,000. Two choices, two things can happen. Usually when you get the order, you'll get a credit card with it. Hence the reason why you have to accept credit cards. You'll get a credit card with it. You've got a $100,000 order and a credit card. Wait a minute, I just got paid and I haven't done anything yet. Is this really the government? Normally it takes 90 days to get paid in the old days. Okay, you didn't get a credit card. You just invoiced them. Your standard terms are net 30. Unless you give a prompt payment discount, you'll have maybe a quarter point for 10. If you do that, they're required by law to pay you within 10 days, not after, within 10 days, and take the quarter. What happens if they go to 12 days and they still take the quarter point? You go, well, at least they paid me. When Treasury pays the bill, they deduct the quarter, put it back onto your side, and give it back to you. Treasury does the audits automatically before they send the check out, which in your case, our case, would be it'll come through electronic ACH. You'll never see a check. You will never see a check if it's over $25,000 either. I don't care what government program, you'll never see a hand or a paper check for over $25,000. That's federal law. So the answer to your question is, yes, you can get paid quickly. Ideally, smaller purchases will almost always come with a credit card attached. If it's under $3,500, you can do some business with the government now under the small business threshold of $3,500 per order. And you go, ooh, why don't I just do 10 of them and get $35,000? It violates the law. Not you, the buyer. The buyer is supposed to combine those requirements into one procurement and give it to a contract holder or put it out for bid. I get calls all the time. Well, I was doing fine on those $3,500 orders, and all of a sudden the buyer called me and said, I can't do business with you anymore until you get a contract. I said, welcome to me, boys. So, 3 different ways of working. Does that answer your question? Good.
So what type of companies are winning the contracts? Like what's the annual revenue that they have?
There's no winning. It's an application. Multiple award schedule, multiple award contract. Sangoma, I'm submitting them now. Digium's already on Corey's contract. They both sell exactly the same thing. They can all have the same contract. Do you have any idea how many people have Toshiba on their contract? Let's say 10. Just think about if you go to Amazon and look up laptop or whatever, you're going to see how many different sellers. It's a question of, and the way it was originally designed was best value. We all know that if I go to Best Buy to buy a TV for $1,000, I'm going to pay, in Florida, 6% sales tax, probably have to pay to have it shipped by the Geek Squad or somebody. But if I go to Amazon, I might pay $10.50 with free shipping and no tax. Who gives me better value? Even though I paid more, when all is said and done at the bottom line analysis, who gave me better value? Best Buy or Amazon? Amazon. GSA was originally developed as best value because the warranty might be longer, it might be this, better returns, you know, all the little things that the fine print. It's now come down to pretty much a price shootout, which is okay also, because what it's done is it's leveled the playing field, so the manufacturer gives you better discount than he gives you, which is equalized now. So as far as the revenue goes, I can tell you right now that 2 years ago, Michael did $1.7 billion to the federal government, not counting state. Billion.
That's Michael Dell.
Yes. Not you, not me, not the hurricane. Michael Dell. If you go to fedspending.gov and look at the top contractors, it's incredible. Some of the numbers, General Dynamics and those guys are putting in billions and billions. Where's the money coming from? I'm already broke. You can't take any more. How many people are like me? Everybody should be raising their hand. We don't have enough money left over. Billions are going into all these contractors. And then there's a gap. And then you got 100,000 here, a couple million there for the little guys. The little guys, us, aren't getting our fair share. The government's supposed to be giving 23% of all those dollars to us, directly to us. 3.5% goes to woman-owned. 3% goes to service-disabled vets. Hub Zone 8A and all the rest of them, all those ones that I showed you in the beginning. We're not getting it. Those are called SBA goals, which is one thing that the government isn't staying on top of these major contractors to make them meet the goaling. Johns Manville, a Berkshire Hathaway company, I finished their contract a year and a half ago. They do nothing themselves. 100% of their work is subcontractors. They go through each of them, woman-owned, veteran-owned, service-disabled veteran-owned, HUB-zone, 8A, right on down the line, and they farm every bit of it out to them. All they do is the paperwork. GSA didn't believe me when I told them. I said, here it is. Here's the numbers. Here's the reports from last year. They so far exceed their SBA goals that it's disgusting. The government can't even get that close. So there are people out there that care about small business.